It's the Brad and John Show.
It is the Brad and John Show. Today is January 30th. We're almost out of January already. This is B Block, which starts around 7:20. I'm with my co-host, John Combes. He is right there, and he has thrown down the gauntlet to me. John has thrown down the gauntlet to me. Haven't you, John?
Are you really going to make a phone call?
John, what do I love to do on this show most? Well, tell me.
Here we go.
Besides being with you.
Okay, now, hold on. Let me interrupt. Do you have anything interesting to ask him, or are you just going to ask him about running for Missouri Republican Party chair?
Isn't that interesting enough?
Sure.
Okay, here we go.
I mean, we had a Mark McCluskey situation where you did boomer talk for a while, and then you hung up, and then I had to ask you an interesting question to ask him, and then it ended up in Politico.
John,
so maybe we could figure out something interesting to ask him before we just have Gen X and boomer talk on the radio.
John, you keep bringing up my shortcings, so I don't know what to say. Okay, here we go. Here, I'm dialing the phone right now. He won't answer. I'll get voicemail. Hold on a minute. Let me see if is this working right now? Yes, it is. Here we go. It'll go to voicemail. You watch.
Your call has been forwarded to voicemail. The person you're trying to reach is not available. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up.
Bill Eigel, it's Brad Hildebrand. We are live on the air in Westplex. Westplex Talk. We'll be on the air until 8. It's 7:23 right now. If you want to call me back, we have a very important question to ask you, myself and John Combes. My phone number is 314-280-8880. Once again, Brad Hildebrand. Call me back until 8 o'clock. You can call me back after 8, but it will be off the air. 314-280-8880. Thanks, Bill. Bye. Okay, so there we go. Okay, couple things to talk about. This tragedy that happened last night, this crash between the helicopter and the regional jet in going in the Reagan International Airport, or I don't know if it's Reagan. I think they call it Reagan National Airport. This is really. There's a guy I watch who is a commercial pilot. I mentioned this guy before. His name is Juan Brown. He runs a channel, if you want to go on YouTube, and he's very good at this, called Blanco Lirio. And this is really a strange accident. And what's interesting about this is, I mean, it's a tragedy, but what's interesting about this is they're pretty sure this is what they call one of the gold top helicopters. You know what the gold top helicopters are?
No, I don't know.
The call sign on the helicopter was PAT-25. PAT stands for Priority Air Transport. And the gold top helicopters are the fancy schmancy helicopters where they pick up VIPs and ferry them around the D.C. area or further, that kind of a thing. And they're not sure. Typically, this is a modified UH-60, which is a Black Hawk. I think they call it a VH-60, and it's modified because it's got, like, nice seating and air conditioning and stuff like that, whereas the Black Hawks don't. And it carries typically a crew of 3, pilot, co-pilot, and crew chief. And they're not sure if there was anybody else on board. And what's bizarre about this is, if you watch this Blanco Lirio channel, this is really weird the way they vector these aircraft around into this one runway. And the regional jet, it was, I think, operated by, was it United, I believe, was absolutely positively totally in the clear, was not doing anything wrong. If you listen to the air traffic controller, he's talking to the helicopter, and this is very common where the air traffic controller, if there's traffic in the pattern, they will say to both of the planes, there's a Cessna 150 at your 3 o'clock. Do you see that plane? And the pilot will say, I've got the Cessna 150. And the pilot from this military aircraft says he sees the regional jet, but he flies right into the side of it. And it's like, okay, what is going on with this? And also the way they do the traffic pattern, apparently there's a joint Air Force base that's on one side of the Potomac, on the east side of the Potomac, and Reagan National is on the west side of the Potomac, and the approved landing and takeoff pattern for the helicopters coming out of this joint base in D.C. is right through the flight path of this other runway. And I'm going like, why would they do that? But they talk about the airspace in D.C. is so incredibly congested with the two airports and all the military, installations they have. Then obviously they have, fighter jets that are in the area that they can scramble for protection of the Capitol and stuff like that. It's just really, really complicated. And there's it's going to come out that this was either air traffic controller error. I don't think it was air traffic controller error, because you clearly hear the air traffic controller talk to the helicopter and say, there's a regional jet, at your, 10 o'clock. I can't remember exactly what he said. And the helicopter pilot comes back and says, I have the RJ in sight. And it's like, okay, he saw him, but they're thinking he may have seen another aircraft, because they have 2 runways there. And what's sort of crazy about this is they're not parallel runways. At Lambert, we have 2 runways, and if you've seen the planes come in, the 2 main runways used all the time are 1230 left and right, and they're parallel. They're about 1,500 feet apart. And these runways are at an angle. One of the runways is almost due north, and the other runway is just a little bit, about 6 degrees off of due north. And what they do is when they vector the planes in, they have the planes come in for the main runway, which is the long one, and then at the last minute they have them do like what they call a modified base leg, and they land on this other runway. And that's exactly what the regional jet was doing. He was exactly where he should have been. And it's to the point where, like, you'd think that if these, if this is routine traffic for this airport, that, the helicopter pilot would have been well aware of the fact that what was going on. It's just sort of weird. Sad situation. The flight came out of Wichita, and supposedly there's a bunch of young skaters on there from the U.S. ice skating team, and man, nasty stuff. And what's interesting about this is I know former air traffic controllers, and they tell me that the system is really sort of creaking, with old age right now, because of the fact that they have diminished number of air traffic controllers. They can't find enough young people. And the crazy thing about that is you can be no older than 30 years old when you start the air traffic controller program, because they retire them at 56. So they want to get 26 years of useful life out of them. And if you are past 30, see you goodbye. And the young people don't want this job because it's, guess what, John? Too much stress, and you have to work crazy hours, and you may have to move. Young people can't do that. I mean, crazy hours, weekends, holidays, move. They can't do that. And, they may put them in a small airport somewhere where there's no Starbucks close by. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, couldn't they just work from home? Couldn't they just do it? Couldn't they just do their work from home, Brett?
There goes John. Yeah, right. Never leave your house. Sit at home. You have like a big desk with like 5 computer monitors, and it has like a camera shooting one way out of the terminal or the tower, another way, and you got the radar in front of you. Yeah, work from home. Who cares? Anyway, that's my nerd stuff with the aviation stuff. The years I flew, when Lambert was top 10 as far as busiest airports, and some months we were like top 6. On Friday afternoon, when we'd fly, it was crazy time, because on Friday afternoon especially, that was when everybody's leaving, everybody's coming home. You know what I mean? The people who were, in town for a week business trip or something like that, they're booking out of town on Friday afternoon, and the people who have been out of town on business trips are coming back on a Friday afternoon, and it was nuts. And to the point where there were times when I still told the story on this station before about how the air traffic controllers would make a mistake with us. And I had these crazy, weird pilots who would love it when the air traffic controllers would make a mistake. And one day we were cleared northbound in 270, right at the approach, right like in Mo Bottoms where the planes come in when they're landing from the west on runway 30. And we were cleared northbound, and there was an L-1011, the old Lockheed TriStars, the old L-1011, big heavy jet going eastbound, and we were cleared to go north on 270. And my pilot, I won't mention his name, hit the tower back, and he says, Tower, are you sure you want us to go continue north in 270? And the air traffic controller says, yes, continue north in 270. Didn't mention anything about the L-1011. So my pilot hits me on the intercom and looks at me and says, watch this. So we go underneath this L-1011 by maybe 50 feet, to the point where there were people looking out the window waving at us as we went underneath this L-1011. And it was like, whoa, and in anybody's book, that was a near miss, whatever you want to call it. And it was just like, and these guys, because I couldn't legally fly as a pilot in command, PIC, because I didn't have enough hours and didn't have insurance, all that kind of crap. But These guys were all crazy nuts. They were all Vietnam veterans, and nothing bothered them. Nothing bothered them. They had ice water in their veins. And as Alan Barkley used to always say, any job's easy until they start shooting at you. That's when the job gets hard. And I'm thinking to myself.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, enough of that. Okay, do you think Bill Eigel's going to call us back? I doubt it.
He'll probably call. He probably knows to call you back after 8 o'clock, so he can have a more efficient conversation.
No, he's dodging me. He always dodges me. Because, once again, you know why he dodges me, John?
Why is that? Because you have an imaginary beef with him?
Because Bill doesn't like me. That's why.
That's right.
You think I'm kidding?
It's too hard to you on A block, Brad. So I'm not gonna argue with you in B and C. You know, I just you get off on the wrong side of the bed and you hope that the stock market crashes, and then when it's up, you're just very sad, you know, and that's where I am.
I'm not sad. You know, I mean, see, what's interesting, I think about you on a daily basis, John, when I'm not in the air, because, you know, we have this very interesting relationship, a bromance, what somebody's called. But every time I hear one of these stock market reports of some crazy weird stuff going on, I think of John Combest.
Thank you, Brad.
Perfect example.
You know I'll have something smart donkey to say about it.
Well, perfect example of, and I thought about you yesterday because this not only involves John Combest, but it also involves one of our local companies, at least used to be local, Boeing. Did you see this report about Elon Musk visiting Boeing? Have you seen this?
No, I haven't seen this at all. Where did he visit them?
This is from the Dateline. This is from CNN Business. Dateline, New York. Elon Musk stopped by the operations of his competitor Boeing to look into the long-delayed efforts to renovate two 747 jets into next generation of Air Force One jets, Boeing CEO Kelly Ortberg said Tuesday. In an interview with CNBC to discuss another disastrous quarter for Boeing financial results, Ortberg said the company talked with Musk, CEO of both Tesla and Boeing competitor SpaceX, as well as with Air Force, about what to do to speed up deliveries of the jets that were originally supposed to be delivered by 2022, but now aren't expected until at least 2027. Remember, this is 2025. That's the number of the 2 years, according to reports. Boeing won't confirm a new delivery date, saying it is in discussions with Air Force. Quote, the president wants the airplane sooner, and so we're working with Elon and the team to figure out what we can do to pull up the schedule of that aircraft, Ortberg said in CNBC. He called the talks with Musk constructive. They sincerely are looking at things in the contract or in the process that are slowing us down, that are not providing value. Now get this. Although Musk's this happened in December 18th visit to Boeing was previously reported, Ortberg's statements that the company continues to work with Musk was new. Ortberg said he has also spoken with President Donald Trump. He's keenly focused on American jobs, he told CNBC. We build these planes in the U.S., we export them throughout the world, so I would think the administration is going to be very supportive, not just as Boeing, but of all the aerospace industry. Now, but in a call with investors in the morning, Ortberg said there was no silver bullet for the Air Force One program, technically known as VC-25B. Air Force One is the designation only when the president is on board a plane, okay? They talk about the fact that, get this, although the two Air Force One jets are more than $1 billion over budget each one is $1 billion over budget, those costs will fall on Boeing, not taxpayers, as part of a fixed price contract under which the Air Force will pay $3.9 billion for the two planes. Now, what's interesting about that is, do you know who negotiated that contract?
Who's that?
Trump, when he was in office the first time.
No, I didn't know that. Wow.
Delays during the pandemic limited staffing at the Texas facility where security features required by the Air Force was being added to the 747 jets. Problems in Boeing's supply chain also pushed the delivery time frame back. Already, Boeing has identified $2.25 billion in losses for the two jets in previous financial results, and on Tuesday took another $1.7 billion charge for military contracts, including the VC-25B, although it did not break out how much of that cost came on the Air Force One jets. Okay, Mr. Stock Market, John, what's your name again? John Combest, are you holding Boeing either as a long or a short position?
No, I have no position in Boeing.
You have no position in Boeing. Okay, what's going on with Boeing? I mean, and this bothers me too because of the fact that, you know, I'm not being anti-union, but you can't, if you're a union, you can't kick the company when they're down. And the union knew darn well that the company was not doing well, okay? But yet they went on strike and they shut down production of the aircraft. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, if I were the union boss, this is me, and this is why I probably never would be a union boss. I would have gone to Boeing and goes, "Hey boys, you know what? My workers, my members of my union, we want some more money, but we know you're not doing real well right now. But you know what? Can you give us a verbal promise? Maybe even put it in writing. Maybe a memorandum of understanding, MOU, whatever you want to call it, that when you get things squared away, that you'll put us in the cash flow position where you throw some more money at us and we'll renegotiate a contract." That would be me as the president of the union. But no, the new generation of these presidents of unions, like the guy from UAW, we're going to kill the automakers. If they don't do what we want us to do, we're going to bury them. You know what I mean? And the longshoreman guy, we can't have automation. We've got to be doing everything the same way that our fathers and grandfathers and great-grandfathers did, decades and centuries ago. We got to do everything by hand. We can't have any automation at all. You know what I'm saying, John?
Yeah, I do know what you're saying. And we talked about this back in November. I just pulled up the episode that it was in. And you and I had the same conversation because your point, Brad, was this is not the time to step on the neck of a company when they're hurting because it's bad for your own members. Well, and I said that the union bosses should just kick them while they're down. That's the time to take advantage of corporate leadership.
I go back to when Hostess, I don't know if you remember this or not, and I'm a big fan of Hostess because, I'm sort of a little Debbie's guy, but every once in a while I stray and I get a pack of Zingers, which I love my Zingers. You ever have Zingers before, John?
Yeah, when I was 7 or 8.
John, you lead me into that just perfectly because of the fact Zingers are what keeps me young. You're exactly right. You eat them and you go back to 7 or 8. Okay. If you remember when Hostess got into financial trouble, and the unions were like, we're not going to help them out. We know they got money. We know they got money. And I remember specifically one of the Teamster guys here in St. Louis, I think he was like the head of the Teamsters Union in St. Louis, he was saying, they need us. There's no way we're going to negotiate with them because we hold the power. Because if our drivers aren't driving those trucks to deliver those products and that bread to the stores, they're out of business. Well, guess what? Hostess filed for bankruptcy. And the interesting part of that is a friend of mine who worked there at the time told me the story that they had these crazy, weird union contracts that although the bread and the Hostess cupcakes and things like that were made in the same plant. Matter of fact, it used to be right off of Broadway there in North City. And as a kid, I remember going there as a field trip. They were made in the same factory, but there were different union contracts for the bread guys and for the snack cake guys. So if you had your typical convenience store, you had the Hostess, the Wonder Bread guy who would show up with the bread truck, and then the Hostess guy would show up with the Hostess cakes. Of course, you couldn't put them on one truck because that was against union contract. So after the contract, after the company went bankrupt and somebody else bought them, and I think that guy made a ton of money. I think he's resold the company since. They essentially say, we're not going to even have the snack cake drivers anymore. We're just going to farm that out to the distribution companies. If you know what I'm talking about, if you've ever seen this before, and I know a little bit more about this than I should know, Quick Trip does this where essentially all the stuff goes to like a main distribution center, and then every night a tractor trailer pulls up to each of the Quick Trip stores, and they unload the donuts, which are made in Raytown, Kansas City area, just south of Kansas City, Missouri. I think I don't even think it's Jackson County anymore. Anyway, the independents like the Circle K's and things like that, they have a company called McLean Distribution. So once again, the Hostess Bakery ships all their stuff to the distributor, and then the distributor brings it to the stores. So they totally eliminated all these jobs for the Hostess cupcake delivery guys.
That's awesome. That's great. In the name of efficiency, right? It makes everything better for everybody.
Well,
you get your stuff in one efficient trip.
But
then the Hostess drivers can go do something else.
Yes, but once again, the union dude was like, they need us. Well, they didn't, and all those guys lost their jobs. See, that's sort of my point. And I get it that you got to bargain tough. You got to, whack your hand on the table a few times. No, we're not taking that deal. Yeah, right. You know how that goes. But there are times when you got to step back and go, okay, let's look big picture there. Here, are we shooting ourselves in the foot? Are we shooting the golden goose the goose that's been laying the golden eggs? Yeah, maybe we are. Maybe we should settle for a little bit less than what we really want, and we'll be happy with that. We'll move it on the road because at least we got jobs, right?
You're going to get your Screen Actors Guild card pulled, Brad.
It got pulled.
You're going to lose your rights as a member of the SAG.
I was never in when they were SAG. It was always just, hold on a minute. Here comes my coughing spells. Okay, we have to take a break.